Hello and welcome to Monday's Nots Today with me, Emma Caldwell. I hope you're okay, had a good weekend. Thank you for joining us. Here is what's on the show today. First, we'll be hearing from the campaigners calling to an end to knife crime related violence in our city.
So hard to see it on the news every day because we know that's another family who's feeling the same way we do and knowing how hard it is to go through something like that.
We'll have more on that shortly, plus we'll be hearing about how tens of millions of pounds will support transport projects in the city and the county. A meeting was held today where more than £33 million was committed to things like road improvements, buses, parking and pavement repairs too. We're going to be chatting about what it includes in just a minute. Plus, we've been to the Nottingham Library celebrating its centenary with a call from campaigners to protect it from potential future council cuts.
Meadows Library is a bit of a hub in the Meadows, and it's such a nice library, and we're always a little scared that if people don't use it, we'll lose it.
We're also going to be catching up with Nottingham Paralympic champion Richard Whitehead, MBE. He's been doing a mammoth marathon challenge throughout this year and joins us later on to update us on how it's all going. And he's going to be kicking off our sports roundup, which also includes a very happy Nuno Espirito Santo after Forest beat champions Man City on Saturday.
Yeah, it was hard work. It was tough. You can see how good City are. Very difficult to control them, but I think the boys did well. Didn't allow too many situations. Always going to be chances for City, but defensively really good.
All that and loads more coming up just for you. But first, it's time to talk transport and economic development. And that's because a meeting of the new East Midlands County Combined Authority approved projects totalling more than £33 million to support various projects in our city and our county, whether that's road and pavement repairs, parking projects, oh that's hard to say, or schemes to encourage more walking, cycling and public transport. There's been promises of significant investment into Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. Plus, there's cash for bus grants too. So here to break it all down is our local democracy reporter, Latifa Yadrouj. Thank you so much for joining us. There's been a lot going on today. So what was discussed in today's meeting?
So today's meeting was quite a lengthy one, great big investment into several projects across the East Midlands. But what obviously struck out to me was the investment into Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. So one of the key projects that was discussed, there were 6 key projects of investment across the East Midlands in general. But the key one that highlighted my attention was the investment into transport links. So over £33 million will be invested into transport projects across Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. So this includes roads and bus services.
So let's start with roads. What can you tell us about the roads? And I know a lot of people are going to be shouting at me, let's talk about potholes as well.
Right, so a total of £23.6 million will be invested into roads across Nottinghamshire. So for Nottingham City, that is a £7.5 million investment. Wow. And across Nottinghamshire, that would be a £16.1 million investment. So this includes road surfacing projects like potholes, fixing potholes, but it also includes work to pedestrian crossings, road junctions and cycle lanes, which are quite frequently used across the city and across the county. We do know that road projects across Nottinghamshire can be quite far and wide, so they put in quite a lot of money, £16.1 million into Nottinghamshire to fix up the roads in those more rural areas.
And I think that's the thing. I think so many people are going to be saying, you know, this road needs sorting, these potholes need sorting. So I think that is welcome news for a lot of people. What about public transport and bus routes? Are they going to be improved across Nottinghamshire?
Yes, so a total of £10.3 million will be invested into bus services. So for Nottingham City, that is a £4.9 million investment, and with Nottinghamshire, that's a £5.4 million investment. So what residents can hope to see in the future would be improvement of the reliability of bus services, so the timing of bus services more frequently, a better access to bus services for everyone, so that includes people with disabilities, better facilities in buses, and also a transition to move buses to fully zero emission bus fleets, so that's quite environmentally friendly. So that's a new project that the funds will be heading to.
Again, it seems like significant investment into these. So what about some of the other key projects? What was talked about at the meeting?
So there are a couple of key projects that the funds will be allocated to. So that includes a £15 million investment into a road improvement scheme across Nottinghamshire County. So that's an overall road improvement scheme, including carriageways, drainage and road markings. Other city projects include a £2 million investment into smart parking signs, so the electronic parking signs, a new investment into making things more easily accessible for drivers, a £1 million investment into cycle routes, and another £1 million investment into improving cycleways, green spaces along Gregory, Lenton and Radford Boulevard, so residents who live in those areas can expect some further improvements.
Interesting. So this is all part of a wider project, isn't it? What can you tell us about that?
So this is all part of a £200 million investment from the Department of Transport into improving transport links across Nottingham, Nottinghamshire and the rest of the East Midlands region. So this is part of a very wide investment scheme. It's been going on for quite a while. So there was an initial investment of just under £200 million, but today's meeting sort of approved the plans. Councillors voted to spearhead the plan. So now we're just going on to the next steps of how these funds can be allocated into different areas of the county and improve the region.
And I think it's interesting because we've talked about potholes and transport links and buses and roads. Is there any indication of when all this work will start?
Right, so there is no particular indication of when the works will start. So Councillor Sam Smith, the leader of Nottinghamshire County Council, did actually ask that question in the meeting today. Would we have a timeline of when we can receive the funds for the county and when can we actually begin our project? So that is a big question that was discussed in that meeting. We don't have a clear answer at the moment, but we do hope to get an answer soon from further council meetings that I would hope to attend.
Latifa, thank you so much for your time today. Right, we're moving on now, and a peaceful protest was held in Nottingham on Saturday, calling for action to crack down on incidents of knife crime in the city. It was organised by community leaders, including Marcellus Baz of the charity Switch Up, but included speeches by the City Council's leader, as well as families who've been personally affected by knife-related violence. It follows 3 high-profile incidents in the city centre within a matter of days, with a call for action to prevent trauma and to make Nottingham feel safer. Our reporter, Mariantil Acosta, was there.
In the heart of Nottingham, there is a storm of grief and determination to end knife crime in our city. This violence has carved deep scars into our community for years, leaving families devastated and people concerned about visiting our high street. Most recently, 3 incidents in a matter of days caused police to increase patrols and reassure the public that Nottingham is safe. That include a stabbing in Primark and a fight involving a machete in Hockley and a stabbing at a house party near the castle. On Saturday, peaceful protesters and those directly affected by knife crime came together not only to demand actions, but to unite against violence.
People are dying, so we've all got to work together. We all work in different ways, don't we? And we've all got different sort of opinions and that, but I think we all come together in saying enough is enough. Nottingham's a great place, and we want people to come here and shop. We want people to come and live here, we want people to work here.
What our aim for is we want to see a long-term strategy for reducing knife crime. We want more investment for frontline community youth services.
Among the attendees was Nottingham City Council leader Nighat Khan, who said she would let the city be consumed by knife crime.
Angry, heartbroken and demanding change. 3 lives have changed forever in just 1 week.
They were also joined by families sharing their raw, painful stories of loss at the hands of knife crime. That include Alison and Chloe Castledine, the mom and sister of Danny, who was just 22 years old when he was stabbed 30 times while on holiday in Amsterdam 2 years ago. The Mansfield family said they feel devastated every time they see a new stabbing incident on the news.
It's so hard to see it on the news every day because we know that's another family who's feeling the same way we do, and knowing how hard it is to go through something like that. No matter how much time has passed, every time you see it on the news, it's like the first time we saw an article about Danny. So
We've got to stop the mentality of I need to carry a knife, because you just don't, because you know if you carry that knife, you're either going to end up using it or have it used on you.
As the protest here in front of the Nottingham City Council comes to an end, the message from campaigners and community members is clear. More have to be done to tackle knife crime. The message from campaigners is that we'd like to see stronger actions from the authorities, while the families affected by this crime are still calling for help. Mariangela Costa for Nots TV.
Right, let's take some more of your news headlines now first. And 2 teenagers have been locked up following an unprovoked, brutal and sustained assault in Mansfield. The 17 and 15-year-old boys, who can't be named, attacked a 39-year-old victim in an alley off Jubilee Way South in July. Police say the boys, who were intoxicated and spoiling for a fight, repeatedly kicked the man in the head, leaving him in intensive care with a bleed on the brain. They both admitted to GBH with intent in Nottingham Crown Court at the end of last month and were locked up for more than 5 years each. Next, and 2 persistent shoplifters have been sentenced after targeting shops in Arnold and Bulwell. Brothers Reese and Ethan Onyett were arrested by police on Thursday after they failed to attend court. They were wanted for multiple thefts from shops in Arnold, but police also managed to link them to a theft earlier that morning in Bulwell too. 24-year-old Ethan Onyett of Arnott Hill Road in Arnold admitted 4 shop thefts and was handed a 12-week suspended sentence. His 38-year-old brother Reese of the same address was given a 6-week suspended sentence. Right, pop and grab yourself a cuppa. Come back after the break, because we are going to be chatting with Richard Whitehead about his Mammoth Marathon Challenge before taking your sport roundup and looking back to that win over champions for the Forest at City Grounds. All of that's on the way next. Hello, welcome back to Monday's show with me, Emma Caldwell. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're okay. Here's what's happening in Notts today. First, and Nottingham Forest have reached a £150,000 agreement as part of their ongoing plans to redevelop the City Ground. The club has planning permission to rebuild the Peter Taylor stand, but no progress can be made until the finer details are agreed, like how much money they need to provide to mitigate the impact on the wider community. Now though, papers show Nottingham City Council has accepted £150,000 contribution towards pedestrian crossing upgrades on the London Road and Cattle Market Road junction. This doesn't, however, mean the redevelopment can begin just yet. Next, and a full revamp of sports facilities in Stapleford, which will lead to the creation of a Steven Gerrard Football Academy, is due to begin construction this week. The project on the Hinklings Lane Recreation Grounds is being funded through the Stapleford Town's fund money and was scheduled to start today, March the 10th. It also is supported by a £1.4 million grant from the Premier League and the FA, with 3 football pitches and a games arena being installed in a construction project which is due to last until September. Right, sticking with sport, and it's time for our next great guest. And when we say he's having a huge year, we really do mean it. And that is because Paralympian Richard Whitehead is celebrating 20 years since the start of his athletic career. 2 decades on, Richard now has 2 gold medals, 4 world titles and countless world records under his belt too, as well, of course, as huge contributions to making the sport more inclusive. And now, to mark the occasion, Richard will be undergoing 20 marathons from around the world, bringing his total up to 100. This month has seen him run in Miami and Malta, and the original marathon in London too. I'm exhausted just reading it. And here to tell us more is Richard himself. Welcome back to Nots TV. Hey, there he is. So tell us what you're doing and why. Remind us what it's all about.
Okay, so the start of the year, after such a fantastic year last year with breaking my own world record and being the fastest ever leg amputee in the world, and reaching 80 marathons, I wanted to really look at that legacy and what I do with the power sport and how I interact with lots of different people all over the world, and really thank people for their support, their guidance, mentorship in my career. So to go from 20 to 100, so 20 marathons in 1 year all over the world, and it's actually 10 months. It's not a year, because I'll finish in November, on the 2nd of November in New York, where I first started in 2004, 20 plus years ago, hopefully my 100th marathon. Yeah, it's fantastic to be able to do, and yes, people do say I'm crazy, but my bigger why is really about connecting with people, getting more minority groups engaged with the benefits of movement for physical health and mental health, but also engaging with Nottingham businesses, schools around the real importance of diversity.
And do you know what? You are so wonderful at that. And we know how important it is for you. But breaking down those barriers and celebrating the power of sport really does make a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, massive. And you don't need to speak the same language to connect through sport. And hopefully when people see me run all over the world, whether it's in Dubai or Miami or Malta or even the original marathon I've just finished, they paint a picture of that. Yes, I'm a Paralympic athlete. I've got a disability that is visible, but also that I'm wanting to connect with the wider community and answer some of those questions around inclusion, diversity, and really start to get those conversations moving around how as a society we can be more inclusive and engaging with young people, because young people are the leaders of tomorrow. And I want those young people to be more diverse, have more opportunities through sport, and if I can help in that journey with them, it's a win-win.
It absolutely is a win-win. So talk us through the marathons. How are they going so far? So we know you've been to Miami and Malta and you've done the original London one as well. I mean, honestly, I'm exhausted just talking to you, Rich.
So I've done 4 and 2 of them have been super fast. So my world record's 2:41 and I've done 2:46 and 2:47 at 2 of the marathons. So yeah, super quick. Because I get to the marathons and then I want to put on a show. And my coach is going crazy. She's like going, oh, you need to slow down, you've got 20 to do. But, and they've all been quite warm up to now. My next one is this weekend in Rome. It's meant to be a little bit wetter, but I love Rome. Rome's such a fantastic city. It's got so much history. History for me as well. I went to the Paralympics in Italy in 2006 in Turin. But also, I was the first ever leg amputee to break 3 hours twice in Italy. And for me, it's a fantastic opportunity to go back to a city and a country that I'm very passionate about having an impact in, and actually showing that 20 plus years down the line, I'm still want to give back to those cities, country, people that still support me along my journey, along this 20-year effort.
And it's really amazing. And in between all these marathons, it's not like you're just sitting down, chilling, watching some films. You've got all sorts of stuff going on. Talk to us about Run with Rich before we run out of times.
For sure. It's really important that the local community understand that, yes, I'm running all over the world, but I'm also doing things that's in the community as well. So along with the Robin Hood Half Marathon, Run with Rich, an event that anybody can take part in, is the day before. Now, you can look on my website, richardwhitehead.mbe.com or the Richard Whitehead Foundation to find out more information on how to get involved. But also I'm going to be doing some work within your local schools around getting a resource pack together that's hopefully going to be funded by the local community to actually engage with more young people to be the leaders of tomorrow and have more young people inspired through the power sport like what I was when I was younger.
Richard, it is always a total pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for coming on. Good luck with all the rest of the marathons. Come back on and tell us how it's going. I feel that too. We'll talk to you soon. I love it, honestly. All right, it's time for your weekend sport roundup now. And we are starting with Nottingham Forest to strengthen their hopes for Champions League football next season, with a late Callum Hudson-Odoi goal helping them to a memorable 1-0 win over Man City. The match at the City Ground saw the Reds lift themselves 4 points clear of the champions. And speaking after the full-time whistle, Forest head coach Nuno Espirito Santo said defensively they were brilliant, but the focus now is on their next match with Ipswich.
Yeah, it was hard work. It was tough. You can see how good City are. Very difficult to control them, but I think the boys did well. Didn't allow too many situations. Always going to be chances for City, but defensively, really good. There's no other way. In football, you have to work hard. You have to balance the spaces, but at the same time, realizing when you defend, you always have a chance to recover the ball in attack. But if you tell me, really good defensively, really good. It's not about City, Arsenal. It's game by game. Now it's Ipswich. It's going to be even harder. We know that, and we have to be ready. Now it's about recovering, analyzing the game, and prepare the boys again.
Into League One now, and Mansfield have extended their unbeaten run to 3 games with yet another draw. They did so away at Stevenage on Saturday, with forward Jordan Rhodes, scoring his first goal for the Stags late in to secure the point. The result means Mansfield are still winless since the start of January. But speaking after the game, manager Nigel Clough said he's very much pleased that they've got past their habit of losing close matches.
I don't know, since the last time we won one, I can't remember. But in most of the games, we've certainly tried to be positive. I was talking to Alex before the game. His first thing was, he said, "Have you not won the last 2 games, you know?" People see that we're playing okay and that we've been a little bit unlucky, but very, very important not to lose today. On the back of 2 good draws, which we should have won, it's important then not to take a step back and then lose, and then you're back to square one a little bit. You know, we've only lost two out of our last 6. I know we haven't won, but little steps at the time.
And Notts County weren't so fortunate this weekend, though. They fell to a 2-0 defeat at fellow promotion chasers Wimbledon in the capital. They did so through 2 first-half goals from the hosts, first by Joe Lewis and then Alistair Smith. Then the result saw Wimbledon leapfrog the Pies in the table, with County now 5th and 2 points behind Saturday's opponents. Speaking after the game, head coach Stuart Maynard said he was disappointed to lose such an important match.
I thought it was men against boys, but I can also say tactically, you know, we probably could have started with a back 4. We changed the shape at half time and we started to get a bit of a control within the game on the ball. In the first half, we just couldn't get any momentum. They were just more physical, they run all over us. And there's not been many occasions this season that that's happened to us. Probably Salford's the other one where it felt like that. And that's when we needed to dig deep, not concede. Within those moments, it's frustrating to concede the goal from the set piece. We've come out in the second half and the lads have had a go, but we've come up short.
And in ice hockey, it was a weekend of mixed emotions for the Nottingham Panthers, with a shootout win and a shootout loss in the Elite League. They started it off at home to arch-rivals Sheffield Steelers and won it on a shootout following a 1-1 draw in normal time. Then they travelled to Cardiff to take on the Devils in a game that finished 0-0 and led to a shootout loss for Danny Stewart's side. Speaking after the Steelers game, though, the head coach said his side showed amazing character.
A good one for the fans for sure. A lot of big moments. I think I can't say enough about this group and the character they showed tonight. You know, they dug deep. You know, that was a game that was just back and forth, chance. You know, we just exchanged chances with them all night long, and you get an OT, and man, I think they hit the bar once or twice maybe, and Jason came up big, and I thought their guy, you know, made a couple good stops too as well, and shootout. You know, great finishes by our guys.
And don't forget, you can catch all the action from that shootout victory over the Steelers right here on Notts TV this coming Wednesday. It'll show for 2 hours from 9 p.m. straight after Team Talk. Right, let's take a look at your Monday picture of the day. Now look at it. Oh, look at that. Stunning sunset shots of Collick Country Park. Thank you so much to Whitefoot Photography for that one. Absolutely beautiful. Weather-wise, we are sorely lacking in warmth this week, I'm afraid. Temperatures will be dropping down throughout the week. Tonight it's down to 3 degrees. You probably need to get that big coat back out. Tomorrow may see some sun to start, but those skies will turn cloudy by lunchtime with a high of 9 and a low of 2. Looking ahead to Wednesday, and once again, some sunny intervals, but that will change to clouds and light showers by the afternoon, with highs of 8 and lows of 1. Right, let's take another break now, but don't go anywhere, because we've got a look at what you can get up to in Notts tonight to cure those weekend blues, plus catching up with our very own gardener, Stuart Dixon, to see how you can get your garden ready for spring. He's here next. Hello and welcome back to Notts Today with me, Emma Caldwell. Thank you for joining us. Here's some more of your news headlines this Monday afternoon. First, a new study will be commissioned to explore how Nottingham's tram network can be expanded. The £300,000 review will look at the best locations for where the public transport network could extend to, such as Gedling, the ongoing Fair and Pastures development near Clifton, the potential Chetwynd Barracks project in Chilwell. The study is contingent on support from the new East Midlands Combined County Authority, which has been granted £66 million for regional transport projects. Next, and council taxpayers in Newark will pay a lower than expected premium precept to the District Council after opposition politicians amended budget proposals. Original budget proposals at Newark and Sherwood District Council would have hiked tax precepts by 2.99%, but a Conservative amendment suggested raising bills by 1.94% instead and reusing other pots to make up the difference. This was approved at a meeting last week, meaning bills to fund the council's services will rise by at least £2.56 rather than £3.89 for the year. Right, let's see what's going on across Notts with our What's On guide. If you fancy heading out this Monday evening, got some great gigs tonight. Berlin-based Swiss-born singer Anna Erhard has returned to the bodega, supported by indie pop group NYSSA, and that starts at 7 p.m. Tickets are £16. Or if you want a legendary noughties indie rock band, they are back in Nottingham. The Doves are roosting up at Rock City tonight. It also starts at 7 p.m. and tickets are still available at £35. And if you want a music legend full of music tonight, Mike and the Mechanics are at the Theatre Royal tonight. So if all you need is a miracle, and if you want to go back to the living years, see what we did with that, starts at 6:30. Tickets are still up for grabs, I'm ever so sorry. And as usual, the Horn in Hand is hosting its weekly pub quiz. A £50 cash jackpot is just 50p to enter. What's not to love? And that starts at 7:30. Whatever you're doing, have a great Monday evening. Now, I'm sure we all enjoyed the weather this weekend. That spring sunshine may have inspired you to get growing in your garden. And if you're wanting to start spreading your green fingers, then our next guest is here to help. And we're joined by our very own gardener, Stuart Dixon, who's here to give you some sound advice about sprucing up your garden this spring. Welcome back, Stuart. It's lovely to have you on. And you brought me flowers and everything. What a lovely Monday. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So let's talk about what is going on in people's gardens. What should we be doing as spring is sprunging?
Keeping warm.
Yeah, well, I know. Honestly, the weather was so false, wasn't it?
It was. We're actually getting a false spring.
Yeah.
And this happens quite a lot now. I mean, the last couple of days it's been jeans and t-shirt weather. And of course this tricks plants into growth.
Right.
And it tricks human beings into growth as well. Quite often you find that there's a sting in the tail, and now it's going to get, it's been cold today, getting colder and colder. So one has to be very, very careful, because yesterday you could think, oh, that's it now, you can put your geraniums out, your fuchsias. You can't. I mean, 10th of December, a few years ago, it was about 6 inches deep in snow.
Yeah.
So lots of things you can actually do in the garden, and you mentioned the lawn. Right.
Yes, well, we were talking about this off air. So my husband went wild this weekend because he got the first mow of the year in.
Did he set the blades very high?
Yes, he
Excellent.
did. He did his research, only chopped off the first little top bit.
Yeah. Because if you scalp it, then you're going to cause problems.
Okay.
But what you can do with the lawn now is to rake it, because there'll be all sorts of bits of debris in there from the winter, twigs and leaves and so forth, and these can develop fungus into, so just rake it, scarify it, and it just brings a bit of joy to it, really. And when the weather does really get warm, it'll start to grow, and it'll grow fairly quickly then.
So what should we be doing in our gardens and allotments at the moment?
Well, it's good tidy up time, really, because we've got more or less through the winter now, and I found this winter has been a very, very cold winter. Not so much in the way of snow, but bitterly, bitterly cold. And some plants have gone. You've lost some plants. This is quite natural, because plants have a sort of a lifespan, and sometimes they just give up the ghost. So you can move things around, you can start to look at where you want to replace plants, but also, I know this goes against the grain to a lot of people, now's the time to prune roses.
Is it?
It is really, yeah. Get all the roses pruned by the end of March, and it's a good time to move herbaceous plants and trees and shrubs before the end of March, because they're still in a dormant state, but very, very quickly, as it heats up, they'll be coming out of it now. You can move things. Don't move anything like the camellias that are in flower, though. Wait until they finish flowering. In fact, wait until October before you move those.
I mean, they're just so beautiful as well. So if people are looking for inspiration and stuff to do with their gardens, there's some lovely things that go on across Nottinghamshire, open gardens and that kind of stuff. You got anything you can tell us about?
Yeah. The list will be out very shortly. It's probably out already. I've not seen one yet, of the National Garden Scheme. And go along there, because when you see other people's gardens, it gives you ideas. Because you think, well, my garden's okay. You go along and see somebody else, think, what a good idea, I can do that, you know. And it happens with gardens sort of great and small. You don't have to have a huge garden or a small one. You can get inspiration from seeing other people's gardens. It usually tends to be sort of a few more weeks yet. More and more will be on. Snowdrops have been out, of course.
I love a snowdrop.
Yeah, harbingers of spring. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And there's so many lovely things that kind of come out in spring as well. If people are new to gardening and want kind of tips and advice, what would you say to them?
Well, wait until, if you want to spread the snowdrops out, wait until they finish flowering. And they're big clumps, dig them up, pull them apart and replant them in the garden. They're better than the actual dry bulbs, the dry corms, because a lot of those don't get going. The other thing, of course, the garden centres shortly will be having for sale in the green. So you can plant them in the green like that. Another thing to plant now, and they are in flower, are hellebores.
What's a hellebore?
A hellebore. These are glorious evergreens, low to the ground. They are the rose, if you like, the Christmas rose and the lantern rose.
I got you.
You know, and they'll spread. They'll spread. They're like a sort of a damp, slightly woodland sort of effect, but absolutely gorgeous, really.
Stuart, we know you're going to come back and talk to us, but it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, it's time for another look at our top story today. And a peaceful protest was held in Nottingham on Saturday, calling for action to crack down on incidents of knife crime in the city. It was organised by community leaders, including Marcellus Baz of the charity Switch Up, but included speeches by the City Council's leaders, as well as families who have been personally affected by knife-related violence. It followed 3 high-profile incidents in the city centre within a matter of days, with a call for action to prevent trauma and to make Nottingham feel safer. Our reporter Mariangela Acosta was there.
In the heart of Nottingham, there is a storm of grief and determination to end knife crime in our city. This violence has carved deep scars into our community for years, leaving families devastated and people concerned about visiting our high street. Most recently, 3 incidents in a matter of days caused police to increase patrols and reassure the public that Nottingham is safe. That include a stabbing in Primark and a fight involving a machete in Hockley and a stabbing at a house party near the castle. On Saturday, peaceful protesters and those directly affected by knife crime came together not only to demand actions, but to unite against violence.
People are dying, so we've all got to work together. We all work in different ways, don't we? And we've all got different sort of opinions and that, but I think we all come together in saying enough is enough. Nottingham's a great place, and we want people to come here and shop. We want people to come and live here, we want people to work here.
What our aim for is we want to see a long-term strategy for reducing knife crime. We want more investment for frontline community youth services.
Among the attendees was Nottingham City Council leader Nighat Khan, who said she would let the city be consumed by knife crime.
Angry, heartbroken and demanding change. 3 lives have changed forever in just 1 week.
They were also joined by families sharing their raw, painful stories of loss at the hands of knife crime. That include Alison and Chloe Castledine, the mom and sister of Danny, who was just 22 years old when he was stabbed 30 times while on holiday in Amsterdam 2 years ago. The Mansfield family said they feel devastated every time they see a new stabbing incident on the news.
It's so hard to see it on the news every day because we know that's another family who's feeling the same way we do, and knowing how hard it is to go through something like that. No matter how much time has passed, every time you see it on the news, it's like the first time we saw an article about Danny. So
We've got to stop the mentality of I need to carry a knife, because you just don't, because you know if you carry that knife you're either going to end up using it or have it used on you.
As the protest here in front of the Nottingham City Council comes to an end, the message from campaigners and community members is clear. More have to be done to tackle knife crime. The message from campaigners is that we'd like to see stronger actions from the authorities, while the families affected by this crime are still calling for help. Mariangela Acosta for Nots TV.
Thanks, Maria. Right, let's take a look at some more of your news headlines. First, and officers have been praised for saving a man's life after he fell seriously ill in the back of a taxi. The officer arrived at Bonner Lane in Calverton at about 8:30 last Wednesday evening and found the man, aged in his 50s, slumped and unresponsive on the back seat. They administered CPR as they waited for paramedics to take over. And after suspecting he was overdosing on drugs, they administered a dose of nasal spray and naloxone. The man was taken to hospital and the officers were praised by the force's Assistant Chief Constable. Next, and a legal battle which could have swept up nearly 24 councils, including Gedling, has been put on hold. Thurrock Council has been aiming to recoup its money after losing more than £200 million on a disastrous solar farm investment. It claimed the non-profit organisation Association for Public Service Excellence was liable for the problems with the deal. The body, which has 23 councils as members, including Gedling Borough Council, was legally challenged, but now this specific legal action will be paused. Right, it's time for one final break, but when we get back, we are heading to the Nottingham Library, celebrating its centenary with a plea to protect it from council cuts. We're also going to be meeting the man behind a Nottingham-based podcast, getting us to chat. That's next. Hello, welcome back to Monday's show with me, Emma Caldwell. I hope you're all right today. Thank you for joining us. Here's what's happening today. First, and a Notts Council has said it's committed to meeting the needs of a swimming club as part of ongoing plans to redevelop a leisure centre. Recently published plans for a new Bramcote leisure centre has caused concerns by a local swimming club over the pool depth and the size and location of the spectator area. It has said it could relocate its artistic swimming section and hold competitions elsewhere. But in a recent meeting, Broxtowe Borough Council's deputy leader said none of the plans are final and that the council is committed to meeting the swimming club's needs. Next, and a play about restorative justice featuring a storyline set in Nottingham will open on Broadway in New York later on this year. Punch, which was written by Notts playwright James Graham, premiered at Nottingham Playhouse last May and tells the real-life story of teenager Jacob, who goes to jail for killing a man with one punch before trying to make up for his actions by meeting his victim's family. It then made it to the West End in London, but now it'll be transferred to Broadway in the autumn in partnership with the Manhattan Theatre Club. Next, the Meadows Library has celebrated 100 years standing this weekend. The library threw a party to remember and welcome all members of the community to join in with the celebrations, and our very own Lucy Marshall was on the guest list.
100 years old and ready for its next chapter, the Meadows Library held its centenary celebrations this weekend. The library first opened its doors on March the 11th, 1925, and was paid for by the not-for-profit organisation, the Carnegie Trust. From face painting and fancy dress, to speeches and sandwiches, the birthday was organised thanks to the Friends of the Meadows Library Group. Di Clausen is the group's chairperson and believes the centre is a vital resource for all ages of the community.
Meadows Library is a bit of a hub in the Meadows, and it's such a nice library. And we're always a little scared that if people don't use it, we'll lose it. We have lots of groups to encourage young children especially to come in and borrow books. They're probably our biggest users. After school, the library is always busy, where the children just come in to do their homework or to look for books or just for company. So it's really important that we keep this library open.
The library has survived financial threats and cuts to public services, thanks to the efforts of its users. But it's also lived through historical events like the Second World War, COVID and flooding. Jackie LaHouque has seen some of the library's importance during these struggles firsthand.
A librarian that worked here in the 90s or 80s, and her mother used to work here during the war.
Oh, really?
So it's just carried on and carried on. When COVID was on, we were allowed to meet in the garden, and it was winter. We used to sit in the garden with our coats and hats and scarves on, and some of the members that probably lived on their own, it was like a lifeline to them.
This weekend's celebrations were thanks to the fundraising from the Friends Group. Their constant aim is to protect this 100-year-old time capsule and ensure it has many more happy birthdays to come. Lucy Marshall for Notts TV.
Thank you, Lucy, and happy birthday to them as well. Right, it's time for our final guest of the show now. Who doesn't love a bit of music? We all do. Well, a new podcast is seeking to celebrate Nottingham's growing music scene. Let's Chat Duck is the brainchild of presenter and pub quiz host Ash Anderson, who wanted to create a network of creatives who could promote their music and have their individual journeys inspire others. The show is on its 13th episode and will now see a new jam segment to bring more of their music into the conversation. And here to talk all this through is talk it through and chat is host and founder Ash Anderson. We'll get there in the end. Ash, thank you so much for joining us. It's not that easy. It's hard talking for a living.
I edit it. It's hard. That's hard.
So talk us through the podcast. How did it all come about?
So like you said, I'm a quiz host and I kind of just from there really wanted to get my passion for music across. I started doing open mic nights and then I was a radio host for a little bit and I was like, right, how can I encompass all of it? How can I get it all together? So naturally, I decided to start a podcast and from there it's just kind of grown. So my first guest was Philip George, so I Wish You Were Mine, which was an absolute banger. And then, yeah, just from there, I thought, I'm enjoying this. And I think it's important to do something that you enjoy because it really comes across to people. And
agree.
Massive passion for it. So
I totally agree. So the podcast is doing very well, 13th episode now. Tell us about the name of the podcast because it's brilliant.
So Let's Chat Duck. I mean, I'm born and bred Nottingham. So it's that kind of thing where I'm like, right, what words can I encompass? Well, it had to be duck.
Absolutely.
So it's became a bit of a mascot now.
I
know, I've not done this purposely. Like this is actually, my mascot. And purple, so there's colours. I wanted a bit of synergy with everything. So purple's always kind of like being represented somewhere. I was going to wear my t-shirt today actually, but I have got purple socks on. There we go. And then the duck just kind of being something that I think with Nottingham just seems to be clearly a thing that people can relate to. So Let's Chat Duck. And I think it relaxes people a little bit as well, oddly enough. I have a purple duck on there as well.
It just makes people feel better, the ducks do.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I love it.
And everyone likes to feed the ducks, so,
So what can people expect from an episode?
So it's normally a chat, so we'll have like a 15-20 minute chat. Their musical journey, doesn't matter if you're, established artist, you're up and coming, you've been on the scene quite a while, it's just literally your music journey. So how did you get to where you are today? Your music influences, what have you got coming up? So it's a little bit of that, but what I find is people start to delve a little bit deeper and ultimately people want to talk about themselves, and I think it's about music is just so universal to everybody and it just links to everything. So when we start talking about music, naturally it starts to go to other things. So coming up, I just think there's more guests and just bigger and better and just kind of,
absolutely,
just raising the bar.
And I think the whole creative industry and the creative world in Nottingham, every time we have someone to come in and chat about something like this, it's such a vibrant city for brilliant music and new artists as well. And of course, championing them is so important, isn't it?
100%. So like for me, Nottingham is just like the hub of just music. And I think when you look at venues like Bodega, Rock City, those music venues and what they offer and just a varied music genre, absolutely buzzing atmosphere. And I love it. And I just think I don't pigeonhole in any kind of like music genre.
I was going to say, is it like a specific genre that you look at?
No, not at all. And I just think like there's so much. I reached out to a violinist the other day, just going, and is that the official name? Who knows? But like I said to her, do you want to come on? So maybe potentially down the line, I'm not bothered. For me, it's just so interesting anyway to just hear people's stories and just find out how did you get into that? A saxophonist, kind of opera singer. I'm really not that discriminative when it comes to like the guests.
You're absolutely right. Once you start delving into someone's life, you go, oh, okay, this is how you got into that and that's why you vibe with this. But there's so many brilliant people in Nottingham. So what are you hoping for next? Where do you want to go with the podcast?
I think next, so I want a producer. So any producers out there, I really do. I think it will take it to the next level. And it's not about, I think a lot of people now want to kind of charge an arm and a leg for something. And I think it's all about growing something organically with a person that is so passionate about this. And I think we can create something quite magical. I think it could be Nottingham's go-to musical or music podcast, not musical. But
as you start singing,
just start jazz hands. Yeah, Andrew Lloyd Webber, give me a call. But no, I think that Nottingham's go-to music podcast. That's where I want to be at.
I love that. So where are you finding your guests? Are these people that you've kind of heard and seen performing, or you kind of reach out to them?
I'm on the Nottingham Business Network scene, which is a great network anyway. And just kind of getting out there. Left Lion magazine is such. I mean, I've poached some of theirs, and kind of, for me, it's all about creating a network of people. And it's not about doing something for cash all the time. It's about saying, let me promote you, you promote me, and just creating a really good, healthy network.
I love it. You've got such a great vibe as well. If people want to find the podcast, where can they find it, Ash?
Instagram, yeah. Lovely. I mean, TikTok for me is just some crazy algorithm out there. I have not quite tapped into the TikTok generation yet of just whatever. It's not something that sits well in my brain. But Instagram, I feel like I've got the hang of it. But yeah, Instagram, Merrow Events, MERRO, because people seem to struggle with the spelling. It's like, come on.
It sounds wonderful.
4 words.
Thank you so much for coming in and sharing that with us. We appreciate it. Love it.
Thank you.
Right, elsewhere on the channel, and last Friday, we saw the return of the Notts TV debate. Francis Finn was back on your screens with a panel of great local leaders. They discussed the hottest issues hitting the headlines, including whether Hooters is sexist and whether net zero goals should be scrapped. They also talked about whether Nottingham needs a tourism tax after new plans were put back until next year. To catch up with the debate, go to our website, it's nottstv.com. Visit our official YouTube channel or catch it at various points in the month on telly. And here's a little taster of what's on offer.
Tourist tax. If you come to Nottingham and you want to stay a night, come next year, January, you may be paying a £2 surcharge. They do it in other nations, don't they, and in other cities. The idea is, if people come into Nottingham, some of that money, the £2, would go to improving the city centre for visitors. Some say, though, it could put folks off. Would it put you off spending a night? £2 we're talking about.
I don't think it would, Fran, and I think we've got to be creative as a city. We know that it's difficult circumstances right about now. We know that our council is bankrupt, so we've got to be creative in how we do things. And I think if we've seen it work in European countries, in other places, then why shouldn't we adopt that? It seems like a natural thing to do, and I think it's going to help us as a city.
Mike, you are keen on tourism. You founded, as well as the Sherwood Business Centre, the Robin Hood Society with a couple of friends.
Society, yes, with a few, very committed people.
And time for another look at your Monday picture of the day. Look at this absolutely stunning sunset shots of Colwick Country Park. Look at that, beautiful. Thank you so much to Whitefoot Photography for this one. Weather-wise, we are sorely lacking in warmth this week, I'm afraid. Temperatures dropping down throughout the week. Tonight it's down to 3 degrees, chilly. Tomorrow may see some sun to start, but those skies will turn cloudy by lunchtime. Highs of 9, lows of 2. Looking ahead to Wednesday, and once again, some sunny intervals, but I've got to be honest, that's going to be changing to clouds, and even some light showers by the afternoon as well, with a high of 8 and a low of 1. And that is the end of the show today. Thank you, as always, to our great guests. Lovely Al Booth is back the same time tomorrow to do it all over again. But until then, from everyone on the team, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.